Talk radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Good evening, Fade to Black. How you doing? How you doing tonight? Well, tonight is Thursday, March 7th, 2024, but it's also my Friday. It's the last show of an amazing week here on Fade to Black. We're going to wrap it up tonight with Brigitte Barclay. Been looking forward to this for quite a while. We're going to be discussing, well, a lot of things tonight, but we're going to center around her 1993 Brentwood, California alien abduction. There's a lot of info to cover tonight. There's a lot to do, and just have fun. This is pretty intense. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've got some images and stuff that she has sent me to as well to help us follow along with the story. And I'm just excited. Now, this is live from London, and Brigitte is one of the most respected figures in ufology. She is a high-profile contactee, and she has been studied by the world's foremost alien abduction researchers, and that includes Budd Hopkins and Dolores Cannon and John Mack, and of course she's worked with Nick Pope. She's coming to us live from the UK tonight as well, and her work has been featured in national newspapers. She's appeared in popular television documentaries on networks such as the BBC, ITV, History Channel, Sci-Fi Channel, Nat Geo, amongst others. And she's also been a production advisor on a variety of programs. Her website, BrigitteBarclay.com. The links are below. And let's just get straight to it. I'd like to welcome live from the UK. There she is, Brigitte Barclay. Brigitte, good evening, young lady. How you? Good morning, I should say.
Yeah, right. Hi, good morning, Jimmy. It's 3 a.m. England. Oh, what we do for ufology, hey?
Yeah, you know, I say this all the time. I had Hugh Newman on the other night. I have a lot of guests from Europe and the UK on the show, as you know. And I carry guilt with that because I realize, you know, you guys are part of the community, and this show is over here, you're over there, and for you to be on the show live, it's very early in the morning, and so thank you for that, and we thank you. I really, really appreciate it. So I'm assuming you're rested, you've got coffee, and you're good to go.
It's all there. It's all there. And food. I brought enough for a party.
Yeah, right on. Now, I have I didn't want to give away a whole lot because your case is a big case and it's lifelong, but you and I have discussed it and at length, but there's so many details that I don't have, and I'm really looking forward to tonight and picking this apart. And the other thing, and I remember you and I sitting there, and I was going, "What are you talking about? This is my backyard.
Yeah,
what
right.
do you mean? This is right. This is, you know." And I know every street, I know every building, and you're walking me through, and I know you remember that, and the look at my face, like, what? This, where?
Why did I miss this?
Yeah, right, exactly. Because I lived just a few miles from there when this happened. And that's the other part about it for me that is pretty mind-blowing. So we're going to go through all of that tonight, Brigitte. Lots to discuss, but it doesn't start in 1993. So let's start at the beginning for you. No, actually, let's back up before that. You're in the UK now.
Yeah.
You were in the United States, obviously. You were in Hollywood, Bel Air, whatever.
No, it wasn't Hollywood and it wasn't Bel Air. I wish, but it was. Yeah. But anyways,
well,
Los
for
Angeles.
everybody, if somebody is going to look this up, just go to Sunset Boulevard and the 405 freeway, and at that intersection, one side is Brentwood. You step into the crosswalk and turn left, and you're in Bel Air. Okay, so it's right. Yeah. It's right on. Well, it doesn't. But for everybody out there, it's right there at that intersection of Sunset Boulevard and the 405 freeway. Okay, but your family and growing up, was there any contact there too as well? Was your family exposed to this before everything started to come down?
Right. So yes. Basically, I remember my first encounter about the age of 6. I'll always call it the Chinese girl in the gazebo. I took a different way home when I was younger, and I walked up this road, and there was this Chinese girl there in front of me. I was about 6, so she was about the same height. She looked very different. There was something very unique about her. Her hair, her eyes, but she had something in her hand that she wanted to show me. She didn't communicate with me. My mum was foreign. She came from Belgium. And I suppose when my mum came over to England, she couldn't speak hardly a word of English. She learned by the radio, listened to the radio. So I kind of understand that, how mum must have tried to communicate with people with the nods or with the body language and things. But this girl was very, very different. And she showed me something. She showed me her house, where her house was, via just visually sort of communicating. And the next day, very excited, 6 years old, I went back the next day. The next day when I went back, where her house wasn't her house there. It was a little cul-de-sac. There were houses there, but there was where she showed me her house was what I will always call the Chinese girl in the gazebo. The girl was not there. But in the area that she showed me, where she pointed where her house was, there was this field, and where this field was, there was a raised something. I always call it the gazebo, with little lights all the way around it. It was off the ground, and I just remember the grass shimmering from the lights. Very large object. I would probably say, probably, I don't know, 6, 10 meters long. I don't know. I was young, but I remember it being very large in this field, very close to me. I don't know how long I was there. I don't know how long I stayed with it. I didn't particularly regress back with Budd Hopkins to anything after that, because there was lots of little coincidences after that. But he took me back to the Chinese girl, of seeing her more so, because I think it freaked me out too much seeing what we call like the craft, as sort of Nick Pope says, it's sort of screen memories. But the one thing that I always remember by it, because I used to see ghosts as a child very, very clearly as I can see you, Jimmy. One thing that I remember from that encounter as going away is I remember grabbing hold of something very, very cold and jumping down. And that's what used to come up under the hypnosis with Budd. And then I couldn't really remember much after that. And then we spent a lot of the time talking about the Brentwood freeway abduction. And so having ghost encounters, she was not a ghost. She was of something else. To communicate with something is intelligent, right? And she was not a girl. She was definitely not a girl. That came up under the hypnosis.
Yeah, and I like because you're 6, the memory is Chinese. Yeah, Chinese. And a very interesting observation because of probably physically what you were looking at, right? And thinking back about that now, I mean, it's such an obvious connection. But did you start to make that a little bit at that age?
No, not at all. I mean, I'll always say this because my mum was foreign. We grew up on we loved Sesame Street, so we had all different genres in Sesame Street. But the uniqueness about her was just that she was tall, slender, my height, long dark hair. We call them fringes. You call them bangs. But her eyes were just, I was captivated, but I was more captivated what she would just then presented to me. So it was sort of like a child presentation, from a being then at that point, as if to say, the thing is, under the hypnosis with Budd, I tried so hard to see what that was, because I remember, if you're seeing in England, we used to have the big £50 notes and £10 notes that, would be like half the size of a book. What was that she actually was showing me? I tried so intensively to look, and it just totally blacked. I couldn't see. It was her, like a programming maybe of some way to come back. And let me tell you, the next day I was so excited to go back, but God, can you imagine how confused I was to go back the next day and she wasn't there? The great thing is, because you brought up my family, the great thing is my dad was so open. My dad was very creative. He was an artist. He was a potter. We come from a very creative family. And he always kept my imagination open. If ever I had a ghost encounter, I'd go straight to Dad. And he always had an explanation. He never parred it off. Both my brothers have had UFO encounter, just the one UFO encounter. But one of my brothers had lots of high strangeness throughout his life. And thankfully, both parents have passed away, sadly, but both my brothers are just so happy for me to have these encounters, and yet to be just now speaking about them. And let me tell you, Jimmy, when I came back from LA, 93, can you imagine, me saying, well, this is what happened to me? It's like they rolled their eyes. But let me tell you, into fruition now, it's like, I told you so. I've got the last laugh.
Well, yeah, totally. I can just see it. Yeah, you were in Hollywood. What did you expect? The United States? Anything, Yeah, I'm sure of that as well. Now, before we get into the thick of this, how did Budd get involved?
So that would have been in 98. So if we go back in time, so when I came back from Los Angeles, and I lived in two areas. I lived in Los Cienega and Olympic, which you all know, which is a couple of blocks down from the Beverly Center, just opposite a massive park. And I watch people every morning doing yoga there. And then I lived in Topanga Canyon, and then I lived in lived in Hollywood Hills, Oakwood Apartments, and then I lived in Topanga Canyon. So how did Budd come into it? When I came back in 93, it took me a couple of years to literally sort my head out. My head was blown, even though I'd had countless UFO encounters prior to this, even with the guy that I was living with in Los Angeles, that I went back to that evening. I'd had a massive UFO encounter with him so close. I mean, like 2 meters away above our heads. So when I came back from LA, a couple of years trying to sort my head out, and got in contact with Nick Pope. I went to a few conferences, and then I got in contact with Nick Pope. I used to run a witness support group because I wanted to meet more and more people. I needed to be around other people that had these experiences. And I then went to a conference, and Nick Pope was there. Now, back in England, we had the magazines. We had UFO Reality, we had Encounters magazine, and one of them actually specifically was in Exeter, published in Exeter, where I used to live in Devon. And so I used to go there and go and pick my copy up on a Thursday from them. And it said that Nick Pope was going to be in Bristol at a conference. So I went with another abductee, which her abduction was the weekend of Rendlesham Forest on the Friday night, with quite a few people in Bristol, this abduction high up on a hill on the same weekend, which is quite crazy. And yet I'd seen craft go over to her house. So with Nick, got in contact with Nick. they had published something in the newspaper about me having this witness support group, making us look like that we love little green men and we wear tinfoil hats. And I thought, you know what, I'm not having that. So I said, look, I know somebody that will account, that works at the UFO desk in Whitehall in London, and I want him to speak up for all of us that have had these experiences. So contacted Nick. Nick then spoke to the publisher, and then something great was put into the newspaper. So I had great validation and backup by somebody who was at the UFO desk at the time. And from that point, that's where the friendship was made. And he said, right, Bridget, right, tell me all about your encounters. So I told him the run up to my encounters prior to Los Angeles. And then I told him about the Los Angeles. So we then went to Bud's in 98 for 5 days, and I did 3.5 or maybe 4 days of sheer hypnosis, which was
yeah. I've only done that once since you and I had hung out.
Oh wow.
I did one session, pretty revealing and all of that, but I'm going to tell you, that's exhausting. Yes. It wore me out. I can't imagine doing 3 or 4 of those in 5 days. Once a year, maybe. Well,
it was 2 sessions a day, if I remember. And the recovery from that, I remember going out for meals, and we were with Linda Cortilli at the time, Peter Robbins, all of us having a meal. And you can imagine crying. You're red, you're puffy, sitting at a meal. You're looking at your food, and you're just like, ugh. I love food. I actually didn't drink alcohol at the time, and a great company. I just didn't have any words. I was physically, headaches as well, just mind blown from crying.
Yeah, it wore me out, and I can only imagine something like that, and plus the emotions that go along with it, and
everything resurfaces. So, did you have it for what? Did you have it for past life, or what
I did it for television. I did it for television.
Oh, that scenario.
But I went in. I did it with Sarah Breskman Cosme. And I had told Sarah, I said, okay, well, everybody, we had a plan, and the plan was no plan. No preloading. I don't want to discuss anything. I don't want to go back and revisit something. There's nothing that I need to find out. I want you to get inside my head and let's see what's there. Okay. And
guitars.
Man, I'm telling you, the stuff that came out of my mouth, Brigitte, it was unreal. Anyway, afterwards, and for those that have never done a session, afterwards, when we were done, I was under for an hour and 11 minutes. I got up, I'm looking at the cameras, and I'm like, oh man, that's right. We did this for TV. I had forgotten all of that.
You do. Yeah, right.
And I walked out of the studio. I had to go to the bathroom. It really knocked the pee out of me. Right? I had to go to the bathroom. So I'm going down the hall, and I'm just like, oh man.
Yeah.
That's a lot, man. That's a lot. And the unpacking of it and the understanding of it, all of that it's a lot, man. It's a lot. It's heavy. So did you remember, we're gonna get straight to it here. But did the encounter itself, I understand, Bud's work and John Mack's work with you and why that's so important. But did you, like, when you got home that night, was everything physical? Was it a physical memory or was it a partial?
Well, that night me and Nick stayed in Bud's apartment.
No. I mean, the night of 1993.
Oh God. Okay. I clearly remember the scenario of the encounter absolutely 100%, and more. And I remember coming back to the apartment and being with Kelly, the girl that I had the encounter with. And I always call her Jane and I always call her Kelly. So whatever format or interviews that you've seen me on, because I kind of had a mental block. I presumed her, but her name is Kelly. What do I remember? Do you know what? I remember just seeing her, and then I remember just not speaking to Billy, who had a UFO, like I said, the 1.5 meters away from us, UFO encounter right above our heads. I should have been able to say something to him. I'd had I used to go to a spiritualist church with his mum, so he was very open for me to talk about anything, and I didn't. And all I remember that night is wanting to be cuddled, and I just remember getting into bed and then just cuddling him and not talking about it. I kind of, in my head, it kind of reminds me like I had like a fever, and like when you're really ill and you're shaking and all of that. And of course I had physical effects from this encounter, which we'll talk about. And just the shock. Now I know a couple of days later, that was it. I had to get out of the apartment, not move out of the apartment. I put Billy with a friend of mine to go and stay with, and the girl Kelly, well, I don't know what happened to her. You know how this works, Jimmy. It can go one or two ways. You can either be proactive like myself, and I'm 27 years I've been fighting for what has happened to me, and thank God it's all happening now. But for us all, but you looking back then, I was just in shell shock. And then it's a bit like after you've had hypnosis, Jimmy, you kind of then put everything together. The pieces go together. I mean, in some parts it took about 10 years for me to go, oh my God, I totally get it. And I've got quite a few encounters that link me back, ironically, through this high strangeness that we all get through being an experiencer, back to the Los Angeles encounter.
So let's go back to that night. I'm going to pop up for everybody. Let me get this going. I'm going to pop up an image here, and oh man, Brigitte, hold on, just hold on for a second. Okay.
Of them.
Okay. No, I had it set up and I messed it up. Okay, we're all good now.
Yeah.
So it all starts here, and now I'm only going to put this image up for a second, everybody. I'm going to allow you to paint the image of what's going on. But this is the Holiday Inn. Now,
the crime scene, I call it. Crime
scene. So
yeah.
Back then, this was the Holiday Inn. Today, I think it's the Lux, right? It's not the Holiday Inn anymore, but that's the 405 freeway. This picture is taken. This is Sunset Boulevard that goes from the Pacific Ocean all the way through Hollywood. That is the infamous, famous Sunset Boulevard. That's the Holiday Inn. And when you're driving, it's the most prominent building that you see for miles as you're going up or coming down the 405 freeway. Yeah. It's right there. And it used to have in big yellow letters right on the top, Holiday Inn. Now it's called the Lux or something. Yeah, it didn't have. I was kind of bummed about that. I always kind of dug the Holiday Inn.
It's got more expensive now to stay in it.
Just a little bit. Okay, so as everybody looks at this picture, to the left is west, and that is going straight to the ocean, which is just a couple miles away. To the right is Bel Air and then Hollywood, and that's what you're looking at. And if you go straight back from this picture about 40 miles to the north, you arrive at this desk, and that's where I'm sitting. So I'm facing south. I'm facing the back of the Holiday Inn. So that'll give you the lay of the land. Okay, so that's where everything starts. Take us to that evening At the Holiday Inn.
Okay, all right. So I know it is left to go to Brentwood, and I always call it right to UCLA College. I didn't even class it as Bel Air, so I always call it UCLA. So I always say this, and sorry if I'm very repetitive on lots of things, but I can only say as what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd taken Kelly for a job interview, and I always say it sounds like a regular day. It was on Rodeo Drive. It wasn't a regular day. I don't go to Rodeo Drive. You know, I used to shop at the Beverly Center or on Melrose and stuff like that. So I'd taken her for a job interview, and it was in the afternoon. Drove there, had her job interview, and we came out, got out of the car lot, drove to go onto the freeway, and driving back on the freeway, we were absolutely talking, and how our interview went. And as we were sort of approaching the off ramp to go on to Brentwood, just by that bridge, I'm just feeling anxious. I'm just feeling something. I am feeling energetically very, very different. I always sort of call it like a stage fright. It's a bit like, you're out there in front of thousands of or hundreds of people. That sort of build up in the stomach. And it was in my sort of like solar plexus stomach. And it was just building and building and building. I had no idea what was happening to me. She was kind of speaking to me. But you're then concentrating on your physical, what's happening to you. I'm trying to drive a car. I know that I've got to go to Brentwood. I know that I've got to go home, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like this build up, fuzzy build up, my body sort of like tingling. And as I'm getting off the off ramp, as you go, you drive up and then you going up to what I'd say like the traffic lights. It's intense. My hands are gripped to the steering wheel. Jimmy Church, you would not be able to get my hands off the steering wheel. You couldn't even prise them off. They were stuck. I was glued. My stomach, I was sat in my seat, and I'm now not talking to her. Now, it was about 10 to 6 at night, and that isn't via hypnosis. That is what I consciously remember. It's still light outside. It's February of 93. And I have just got off the off ramp, and I'm now kind of stationary. There's a car in front. Not sure if there's a car in front of me. Now, from the picture that you've just shown your viewers, the actual road now has changed, right? So I'm back a little bit. You will see a picture shortly of the position kind of where I was. Now they've changed the road. Now they've dug up which would have been a central part of the road. They've dug that up. And as we know of like a lot of UFO encounters, quick, change the format, let's dig it up. No evidence whatsoever. It was kind of that, because mine involved military helicopters, right? This is quite bizarre, and a Men in Black car. So I'm now up on behind a car. I'm sort of moving, just gonna put my foot on the brakes intensely. I'm vibrating, my body's like just not feeling right. And I've got both my windows are wound down, and because it's nice outside. And I see, because I'm a huge classic car fan. Oh my God, you can't get me off comedians in cars getting coffee with Jerry Seinfeld, because I just love that. Yes. But I've had lots of classic cars all my life, and so has my dad. But I remember the part of my door frame where you've got that little triangle, then you've got the front windscreen, and then you've got your car, you've got the window. I remember seeing something very quickly and very silver, quite low. So this object must have come from very low down. I then saw it, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's now in front of me, above the trunk of the car in front. Now, this thing is about 45, 50 foot in length. It is absolutely, well, I can say it now, stunning. It was stunning at the time, but aerodynamic. Something of that size, of that heaviness, shouldn't be in the air. It had no wings. It had no fuelage coming from it. When I was looking at it, first of all, I'm looking at it. Forget about Kelly next to me, because I'm just like, you know, hands on the screen, just looking. I can see it's got no fuelage coming from. Where's the exhaust coming from? Where's the wings coming from this? But it had the most amazing red-orange power source underneath it. I want to say, like, it was very, very identical to the Billy Meyer Palladium craft. It was just stunning. It was very low, to the point if I got out of my car, jumped on top of the trunk in front, jumped up on top of the roof, and jumped up a little bit more, I would have touched it. It was so close. So it was probably about 8 meters away from me. So at this point, because my hands are so gripped to the steering wheel, I'm then literally got my nose kind of right to the windscreen. And then, are we allowed to swear, Jimmy? Are we allowed to swear? Well, okay. All right.
You're the guest. Oh, I wanted to say, since we just had a break in the action.
Yeah.
Did you know that they replaced that bridge?
No.
Bridge, they tore it down. Yeah, there was a brand new. This is about 10 years ago. They tore that bridge down, Sunset Boulevard. They had it closed, and they put in a new bridge with this arch. That old bridge with the pillars under it, the one that no, that's gone. Now it's an arch. They tore it down.
It's highly radioactive. That's why.
They tore it down.
Why all the cars going underneath it traumatized.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, that was interesting, because when I went back for the BBC road trip, you know, I was in like, oh my god, they've dug up the road. Oh my god, they've taken down the central part. So that could have been about the same time. Okay, very interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to say 2000. I'm going to go 10 years. This is 2024, 2014. Yeah, 2012, like right in there, they tore it down and built a new bridge. It took about 2 years.
Oh my gosh. Well, so little did I know, looking back now through other cases, that's what they do. Well, I mean, okay, it might be something to do with roadworks for the bridge and various things like that, but you know, they kind of, you know, if for sampling stuff like that, get rid of all the evidence. But I mean, that's a big job. It was a bridge, right? So
now you were going to swear. What were you going to swear about?
Oh yeah. So got my nose to the windscreen, literally looking up underneath this object, and then I go, what the is that? And then it grabs her attention. See how I did that and just silence? It grabs her attention, right? And then she's now looking at it. So we're both looking at this object. Now, again, I studied it. It must have been there for minutes in front of me, very still in front of the car in front. And then it started, and I can't explain this. It moved sort of like slow, fast. It didn't wobble. It just gliding stunningly. And I obviously, as I'm watching it then go over the trunk, then the roof of the car, and then slightly going towards traffic light. Now the traffic lights had stopped weirdly. Now, okay, yeah, you can get to a traffic light and they can stop. You know, we all will them to stop and they don't bloody stop. But I believe that this craft stopped the traffic lights. Now, it's then going over towards UCLA. So it's still on that bridge, as if going right. It's still on that bridge, and it is going over towards Bel Air, like you said, and UCLA. It's absolutely huge. So it's going over. Now, I'm still not talking to her. We didn't say a thing. My hands are still prized to the steering wheel. The feelings that I'm getting are just like intensifying, and I'm in shock, but I know what I'm doing. I know that I'm driving a car. I know that I'm aware that I have to be somewhere. So the car in front of me carries on driving. It goes to the left, it goes over the bridge. And you might have some pictures of the actual reconstruction of
I
what
have
the craft
that.
looked like.
It's right here.
Yeah, there you go. There's the beauty. So basically, yeah, that's the sort of like the typical Billy Mere craft. I mean, it was a bit wider than that, but that's the sort of like closest thing that we've got to it. And then you've got where I was at the next one that is actually sort of like at the traffic lights. So you can imagine that above. That's the car we see in a minute. There you go. Right. Okay. So this is the roadworks that you're probably on about, right? So as you can see, can you see the truck in front of you? That they're going off to the left. So I'm heading that way. I'm at the traffic lights, and actually to the right, you can't see. That's where they dug up the central part. So
yeah, I'm gonna. Okay, so everybody understands. If you turn left here, you're going to Brentwood. If you turn right here on Sunset Boulevard, you're going towards Hollywood. UCLA is on that. The UCLA campus is that street corner. It's just like goes on for miles. I'm wondering. No, we don't have a Sunset Boulevard street sign here. It's kind of weird. Right here now is it says Sunset Boulevard. There's a big sign right there. But anyway, and then up here on the hill, that's the Getty Center. That's the art museum right there on the hill. So now you know the lay of the land. This is
so that's exactly where I was. So very busy. Freeway underneath would have been very busy, 10 to 6 at night, people going home, people going back to LA, going to the village. And also, Jimmy, as you know, the Holiday Inn had a restaurant right at the very top. So around about 10 to 6 at night, there would have been people looking out of there eating.
Well, isn't that the obvious question that not only myself, but everybody has? This is Sunset and the 405 at 6 o'clock in the evening.
Absolutely.
It's rush hour. So everybody should have seen this. And you've answered that question a million times, but I'm going to ask you right now. Was it just for you? Why didn't everybody else see this?
Well, it was for her as well, Kelly next to me. And none of us experiencers can understand why. All I know is I've had so many UFO encounters beforehand. This was a very special encounter that led me to be able to help disclosure with you, with everybody. So, but the fact is, it involved military helicopters, which we'll talk about, and it involved a Men in Black car. I was never, ever going to not talk about this. Kelly, don't know what happened to her. You know, it can work one or two ways with people. She hasn't come forward. That's in some ways, oh my God, I'd love for her to come forward, you know, but you can have a major wobble in life from having an incident like this. But because I was kind of prepared for it in some ways, because I'd had UFO encounters, you know, I just thought, well, weirdly, I willed something to happen a couple of days beforehand. You got to be careful what you wish for. But so basically, as the car in front of me is starting to move left to go over the bridge, and my hands are prized to the steering wheel in shock, put my foot on the gas, start to drive over, just making the tip where you saw that truck just going around the corner. And I remember turning my head round and looking out of the back window of the car window, not looking at her, looking at the back window. And what I say is literally, I mean, you know, you say your back window's that big. Let's say the craft was about that big, you know, and it was plowing, Jimmy, through the tops of the trees, right? So there were trees there where you're saying as if you go right, there were trees all in a line there. And it was literally like just going through the top, the very tip, but the tops of the trees as I look around. And I can still see from that angle, no wings, nothing. And I'm like, but sorry, if I go back, when I was at the as I was just going over the traffic light, I got told very, very strongly in my head, you can't go right. you have to get up high. Now, you could say it's a subconscious type of thing, that it's a sort of like, you know, I always say this sort of like, get up high, you're going to be in a battle, get up high so you can see your enemy, right? I wasn't like frightened. I want to state that I was not frightened. I was out of sync of absolutely everything. I was very numb. There was no fear with it. Even though like gripping on the steering wheel, feeling the build up and everything, there was no fear with this. Okay. And so I got told in my head, I can't go right. So went left. And Jimmy, this is bizarre, when me and you sat down next to each other and I was telling you this, as I went over the bridge, I knew in my head, and now I don't know Brentwood. I went there for two, there's a little cinema there, theatre. I went there for 2 premieres, one for Uncle Buck, that was so cool, and one for the Terminator 2, because both my friends were in the movie business. So I remember going to Brentwood for that, but that's my only time of going to Brentwood. So I remember going over the bridge and I had to get up high. So I went up, what's it called, Jimmy? What's the name of the road that went up?
Church Street.
How crazy is that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
It freaked you out. That freaked you right out.
It does. It's because I know that area so well.
Yeah, I know.
But it's Brentwood, it's Sunset Boulevard and you just drive. It's right there, man. It's a ginormous church. It's Church Street, but the sign is blue and it says church right there. So, okay, so you turn on Church Street towards the Holiday Inn?
Yeah, so I go up, I drive up. We're not talking in the car whatsoever. Put my foot on the gas, get up to the top of the hill. And at that point, there was this little sort of like a turn the car around in, it was like a cul-de-sac at the time. And I turned the car around as if then positioning to the Holiday Inn would have been below me and the freeway would have been below that, and then I was looking out towards Bel Air and UCLA College. And
right. Okay, so let me pull this up for everybody so they understand. This is Church Street right here. And that goes up and dead ends right up here, if everybody can see where my mouse is.
Yeah.
So she turned left onto Sunset Boulevard, which is here.
Yeah.
And then turned right on Church Street. And then you are up here looking over at Bel Air.
Yeah, I'm just above actually where the apartments are, you know, those white apartments that you see. I'm just kind of up there, up at the top. Yeah. And obviously, I'm right up there. So now I'm looking down on Holiday Inn, looking down upon the freeway, looking down as the crow flies towards UCLA. So I drive the car around, and I say to Kelly, right, we're both going to get out at the same time, and we're both going to point in the same direction of where we think this went. She gets out her side, I get out my side. And actually, it was quite a big, steady drop. Looking down, I probably shouldn't, on a dust part of the road, looking down. I got out, and we both pointed towards UCLA College. Well, I won't say fear again, but the what's the word I'm looking for? Well, the impact of like, shit, what the hell's happened? My eyes were just burning. My eyes were sore. They were stinging. I was shaking now at this point. I just could not see anything of that size, that craft, going anywhere there. I couldn't see it from like a bird's eye point of view above sort of that area. Could not see it whatsoever. But the impact of her both pointing at the same time was like, oh, shit. But yet life had prepared me for that with my UFO experiences. But the reality was like, oh my God. So wasn't there for very long because we couldn't see it. I then, still not talking to her again. That was the only thing I said to her, right? In the rest of the hours from being on the bridge. Then drove down, made a right, a couple of blocks away, I had to go to a girl's house. Now, I don't even remember who this girl was at the time. I don't know. She couldn't have been a huge friend, because I would have stayed in contact with her. Never stayed in contact with her afterwards. I remember going to her house, which was right on the very corner as you were going into Brentwood, like blocks away. I've never sort of like measured it. And I drove in, and I didn't drink alcohol at all. So all I can describe it is, because I don't drink alcohol anymore now, but I did drink alcohol. All I can describe it is like when you're really drunk and you're really pissed. And I got out of the car. I remember holding on to as I closed the door, as I held onto the bonnet of the car, as I sort of like put my hands on the bonnet of the car to steady myself. I didn't want to look down. I didn't want to look at anything. I was seeing pebbles on the ground. I just couldn't focus. I didn't want to focus on absolutely anything. My eyes were absolutely stinging away. I was just still in the state of shock. I was just not feeling myself. I remember ringing on the doorbell. She came downstairs and invited me in. I said, no. Something has just happened to me. I need to go home. Now, it's a bit like we're all programmed to do certain things. I knew that I had to go to her house, so I just carried on the series of things of what I had to be doing after this. I mean, yeah, I could have just carried on home, but there was a reason why I had to still go to her house. So come on in, have a cup of tea. No, something's just happened to me. Got back into the car again. And I don't know what you call it there, but you drive in one way. Her apartment's in front of me, and then you drive out sort of like a Y sort of like scenario sort of drive. And I got back into the car. We're not speaking still. And I go to pull my car out, and there in front of me is this car. Now, that's not the exact car, but that's the exact sort of similar car that I can recreate. Now, in America, as we know, especially LA, we have many Hollywood picture vehicles. And being a total petrol head myself, I then saw this car that you have, it was a typical sort of Men in Black sort of like, 50s car. It was so tinted out black that I think that was that's a purpley one, but tinted, it had thinner windows than that. I want to say it definitely had thinner windows than that. Tinted out, I could not see in. It was black, and it was boom right in front of the hood, the bonnet of my car, right there. And in my head again, I heard, this has been placed here for you not to forget. And I'm staring at this. Now I am at that point now starting to freak out, because in my head I've got what's going on with what's just happened. I still have this same feeling of uncertainty, of freaking out. Obviously it's not normal to not speak to someone that you've had. Well, we know that it happens, but I'd have her to speak to. She was in shock. I was in shock. So this has been placed here for you not to forget. Because you can forget UFO encounters. Many of us have. And then until a later date that you remember. And then that's the pictures of the puzzle that all goes together. So it's there. And I remember looking at the blackness of the windows. That is the bit that freaked me out. Because it brought back, not that specific time, but it brought back the Chinese girl. Her eyes. Under the hypnosis, I worked with Dolores Cannon first of all, with in 97 for hypnosis, and that was very apparent. It was all about the eyes and the beings for me. So it freaked me out that I was looking at something dark, something reflective. It brought back a very, very something that was just unearthing. And the car then stayed there for a bit. And then I'm like, oh my God, just move, go, just go into the traffic, And then it started to move into the traffic. And then I remember waiting for a couple of cars to pass me by, because I just wanted it out the way. Got back into the traffic again. carried on for those, let's just say 5 blocks to where I then went on the off ramp to go back onto the freeway, to go back into the valley, into the hills, Woodland Hills. And as I was descending down, pretty much near where the Holiday Inn was, so I was just getting down off the freeway, I just heard this roaring noise because my windows are down. And I just, what is that? And again, I saw it right in front of me. As I looked up, I could hear it. It was 4, 5 black military helicopters swooping as the crow flies directly towards UCLA. So I don't know what the duration was. It wasn't half an hour. It wasn't 20 minutes. It was very fast. Well, it's probably about 15, 20 minutes. But swooping towards UCLA. And now that I could, the helicopters, one of the helicopters was so close to the car, going over the car, I could see the rivets on it, black, unmarked. And I could just see the rivets all on the side of it. And it was going towards UCLA College. So can you imagine? I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what's happening? What's happening? I just needed to get home. I just needed to get home at that point. We're still not speaking in the car whatsoever, the journey home. And this is the part that I said to you earlier. When I get back home to my apartment, Oakwood Apartments in Woodland Hills, you know, put my bags down. I remember putting my bag down in the kitchen, seeing Billy there in the sitting room with my friend Gavin. And I just wanted to say, guys, you're just not going to believe what happened. I remember we had the TV on at the time. And I believe, if I remember, you know, flicking through stuff to see if there was anything on the news, like hell, there's going to be anything on the news. And then I remember her walking into my bathroom and then seeing the reflection of her looking at me and me looking at her, as if to say, oh, what's happened? What's happened? And then she then left and then went to her apartment, which was in the same complex. So
okay, so the Oakwood on Ventura Boulevard in Woodland Hills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ventura, yeah. Which I didn't realize looking into. You know, we had some swanky sort of celebrities living there at the time, because it was one of those apartments that were all done up inside.
Yeah, and
like a hotel.
Heavily booked up by the film industry. So if you're staying out of town, yeah.
I didn't know that at the time.
Now, but also it is swanky, but it's about, I would say, if you have no traffic, it's probably 20, 25 minutes from there. In traffic, that's a whole nother drive. But so you've got 20, 25 minutes before you get home.
Not
and
talking.
you guys are not talking the whole way. And she lived there too as well. Okay.
She lived in the apartment there. She'd just come over from England. Probably, this is February 93 this happened, end of February 93. I think it's between about the 22nd and about the 26th. And I only say that because I had a letter that was sent to my apartment, and it was from a friend from England. You got the date stamp on it. She goes, I haven't heard from you, B. You all right? And I know it takes 5 working days to get anything put at that point to England. So I kind of got a time frame. And I remember Valentine's Day with Billy. So I remember it's about the 20 to the 20, 22nd, 24th, 25th, 26th. So no, not one word with her. Not one word. I was going through physical effects of my eyes being so sore. I just kept rubbing my eyes, just wanting to get home. I still had that feeling.
Now, at this point, because and we're going to go through, we've got a lot more images and stuff to discuss, but did you feel that this was an abduction experience, or right now you saw something, you saw the helicopters, you had the physical sensations, but that's
and the car, the Men in Black car.
And that's what I'm saying. But as far as you're concerned right now, that was, as crazy as that was as strange as it had gotten at that point.
Yeah. I did not think it was an abduction at all.
Right.
I did not think it was an abduction at all. My brain, but yet looking back, the physical effects told me everything.
What did you tell everybody once you got back to the apartment?
I didn't. So like I said, Billy and Gavin was there, and I just want to say, guys, you wouldn't believe what's just happened to us, and I couldn't say it. Now, I will tell you that I'd had an encounter with Billy, my partner at the time. He was English. I'd had an encounter with him back in England, and I'll just tell you very quickly, but we'd gone out for a meal, had a massive steak meal, got back to the hotel room that we were at. As you do, you just flomp out on the bed, like, eaten far too much. Your head's just looking up at the ceiling, and then all of a sudden, as we're both, because we've got our legs dangling over the end of the bed, comatose, looking up at the ceiling, all of a sudden, and I always say it was like a mattress, a black mattress with little lights all in it, white lights, just started to glide above from over us, from in front of us, came over our heads, literally about a meter and a half away from us, above our heads, floated over the bed, and we watched it float over the bed, and then it went into our wall. It disappeared into our wall, a bit like a ghost or an entity, a being would come in and come out of reality. So I should be able to say something to him. I couldn't say anything. And I don't remember my state of mind, except for a couple of days after the encounter. I just needed to get out of LA. My head was totally blown. I didn't want to think of anything. I just wanted to be somewhere else where kind of nobody knew me. Didn't want to get found, didn't know what was going to happen. I just needed something normal. So I went to a place called Aptos, which was in Santa Cruz. A friend of mine had to go and pick up a trailer. And so I said, you know what, I'll go with you and go pick the trailer up and then bring it back. And we took it back to Topanga Canyon. Crazy Topanga Canyon at the time. Hot spot at the time. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's another part of this story that is just so fascinating. I just had Preston Dennett on the show, and
amazing.
Yeah, and at that time, 1990, 91, 92, 93, Preston was posting flyers all in Woodland Hills in that area in Topanga Canyon.
Yeah.
Have you seen a UFO? Right?
Yeah, that's correct.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
You? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Well, I stole a couple. I
have one. I have one. Yeah, I have one. Well, see,
let's discuss later.
At that time, when all of this was going down, I lived in Sherman Oaks. So if you just go up the freeway, come down the hill, that's where I was. I was just a few miles from where all of this went down.
We passed through various stores and places. Yeah, we probably met each other in some other land. Wow.
Yeah, you never know. Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Brigitte Barclay. I'm Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now.
My job is not to preach. My job is to take you on this journey.
In a state of passion, nothing negative can happen.
That it's the moons of those planets that would have life.
Sometimes I see, these energies also in your field.
It is our passion and our pleasure.
Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. This is Jimmy Church. Please visit and explore Egypt this October 3rd through the 14th, 2024 with Billy, Elizabeth, myself, and very special guest and the #1 podcaster in the world, Sean Kelly. It's simple to do. Just go to forbiddenknowledge.com and click on upcoming tours, or click on the link below. We'll see you there. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's fade to black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black t-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 t-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. And right now, if you get a Game Changer membership for a limited time, you will get Fade to Black Blend coffee with your Game Changer membership. That's right. We have 2 t-shirts. We have the original, the classic Fade to Black t-shirt. You know you want one. Post a picture, send it to us. We'll put it in our Fade to Black gallery. And we've got the new official Fade to Black t-shirt drawn by Michael Oming. 2 t-shirts, 2 ways to get them. Get yours today. Everything is in stock. Everything gets autographed. Everything includes shipping. And you're going to get a tracking number. And with a Game Changer membership, you get an email to me. You get unlimited commercial-free downloads of the show. Those are uploaded every single night after the show to the website. So don't delay. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. Go Backley Tappy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, live from the UK, Brigitte Barclay is with us. And now let's jump forward in where we are, Brigitte. We've laid it out. That's okay. We've laid it out, the experience itself and seeing the craft. Mm-hmm. But now let's talk about what happened. And did you find this out originally through Budd, or was there another session?
Well, Dolores Cannon and Budd Hopkins, but I think Budd did pretty much all of the work, mainly on the freeway. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What was revealed? Were you well, take us through that, because you have the physical memory of everything,
Yeah.
and then you have what was revealed through the sessions with Budd.
Yeah.
So take us through that. What happened first with your? I'm just going to say abduction. Let's just go with that. What happened first?
Okay, so what the scenario in the car, and okay, so basically, under the hypnosis, Budd took me back to the Chinese girl. He took me back to other encounters that came up, encounters that I consciously remember. I always want to say that I consciously remember these encounters, and then under the aid of hypnosis, then you're seeing, I call it the TV in my head and your memory. I might get my cat trying to jump up in a minute. And it's like, it's too early for him. It's like, Mum, what are you doing up? And yeah, I think he might. And I thought to myself, you know what, I consciously remember these things. And it was the hypnosis that just put the pieces of the puzzle together. So as I'm at the traffic lights, and the craft is above the going above me before it gets to the car, so it's now above my above my bonnet of my car. That's when things change. The feeling that I have of the emotions and the tingling and the sort of like, I will call it a frequency, because it is definitely a frequency that was played out to me. Because my hands are still on the steering wheel, then things change. Basically, all I can say it as, Jimmy, it sounds crazy. You do hear this. I was then literally pulled from the car, but fragment by fragment. I want to say like molecule by molecule. All of a sudden, it was like my body had gone on into trillions of pieces, you know, being then drawn through the steering wheel, literally pulled through the steering wheel. I can see this with my mind's eye, going through the steering wheel, going through the central dash of your car, right? So can you imagine every part of your body is just feeling every part of that metalwork, blah, 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 you know, plastic, going through that, up through the car engine and then up. Now, crazy as it sounds, that's all I can sort of like describe it as. So the sensation of sort of like of defragmentation, of just going through that process, and then boom, I am then in a field. I am then taken to a very tranquil place. A very tranquil. It's a bit like one of those sort of like enchanting, sort of like romantic movies of like a field and people in it and lying down. I am there then with beings. Those beings, there are 3 beings there, and then I'm standing with these beings, and then I am engulfed in a massive orange light, orange red light that's around me, and the love that I'm just going to say. So this is why none of my encounters have scared me or frightened me. And I know it has frightened lots of people. I've just totally changed the format on it. You know, it is just all an experience. I then, the love and the compassion of overwhelming love. I was like, I know you. Oh my God. And then I remembered seeing them, and I consciously remember seeing them as a child anyway, but they're back. One of them had a baby in its hands, and it was cradling a baby, and it was like the typical sort of child presentation. The child presentation, the baby wasn't about the baby for me. And with Budd Hopkins, you know, not that he led me or anything like that, but he has ways of working sentences throughout that session. You know, I can't remember, you know, oh yeah, see, look how pashaggled I look, right? I was like, oh God, I look like, yeah, I'd been crying and crying. That's amazing artist. And because we were an arty family, it was just, that was a sanctuary actually being there. He was like my dad. He, you know, like the oils and the acrylics that you can smell there. It was just like being home. Thank God, I was staying there with him, you know. And the great thing is about Budd, even when I came back from England, he was always out on the phone for me. If you ever want to talk about anything, if you ever want to talk anything through. And also, I am going to give total credit out to Peter Robbins. Peter has been an absolutely amazing friend for me for the last, 26 years. You know, he's just been absolutely brilliant. Yeah, he's always been there as well. So,
so you're in this orange light.
Yeah.
And the three beings.
Presentation. Yeah.
So the three beings, can you describe them for us?
Yeah, I couldn't find the actual the drawing that I done. It is somewhere, but so basically, very tall beings, much taller than me. The energy that I was getting from them was absolutely intensifying, as if to say they are familiars. These are my friends. I know these. I'm not scared of these. The feeling of love, and they were see-through. They weren't like see-through, like as in total see-through. They was transparent, but I could see their veins very clearly. I could see the pink. I could see the light blue hue from them. They were emitting very translucent sort of light from them, but very solid. But what I found we all sort of like focal in at certain things. What I was staring at was, oh my gosh, it's your hair. They were like hair transplants, just had these white pieces of hair coming out of their heads, quite long, not like the typical sort of like Nautics that you see, but I was just fascinated, you know, because I did makeup out in the States as well as modeling. And I just like, you know, we see everybody, but to me, I'd never seen anything like this before. So I was very close to them to be seeing every part of them coming out, but not like transplant of loads and loads. They were like just pieces and just thick coming down. So I had seen those beings before as a child back in my garden when I had a medical procedure done on me with them. So that's the connection that you get, and you go, oh my God, I remember you. That's where the familiar was. You know, even though I'd seen various types of beings, I've seen the grey type of beings. Ironically, I've had an encounter 2 years ago that involved a very tall being with a horse head. Very tall being with a light emitting from the window, with a vibration going through me. And I talked to David Sedaris the other day, and he said, "B, you've got to read a book, We Are the Arcturians. There's something in there about the Arcturians having a horse head." I said, "Look, I mean, I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of UFO books." I said, "I've got that book." I couldn't find it. And then directly behind me, as he was talking to me, I went, "Oh my God, it's there behind me." So I presume I've been introduced to many different beings, you know, and also my dream state as well.
The appearance, did they masculine, feminine, male, female? Could you tell?
No, I couldn't tell whatsoever. All I could tell was just the vibration that they were all giving off. They were giving off all the same vibration.
Were they
weren't clothed. No, not at all. They were transparent and see-through, top to toe. A lot taller than me. Let's say 6.5 foot, 7 foot. I'm just in a circle in a field with them. And no, totally transparent, not clothed. Actually, none of them have been clothed that I've seen.
The experience itself, as this starts to unfold, you're in this orange light and the vibration is high. Was there communication? What happens next?
Well, it was like the child presentation. So go back to Budd. He asked in various formats, you know, was the child mine? No, it wasn't about the child. It was about the beings for me. And that was the most important part of that hypnosis. It was about the communication throughout my life with these beings that either come in my dream state or whether they come in my close encounters that I have in various forms.
Yeah, right. I remember, and I'm just interested in what was happening in your experience when I was regressed. I saw their mouths move, and they were speaking English. And I've heard so many times, like a Californian, they were speaking American, not English.
Of course
Not
they
that, not yeah, not. Well, and you always see that in movies, right? It doesn't matter if they're Russian or whatever. Everybody's got a British accent when you need somebody to be intelligent, right? Okay, I get that. I totally
I'm
understand.
not. I'm so not.
But I heard this just typical, like a West Coast average American thing, and it was bizarre to me. It's not what I expected. It didn't surprise me, but it was the opposite of what I've always heard. Different experiencers talk about. They were speaking through the mind, which I get. I understand that.
Yeah.
But that wasn't my experience. What was yours?
Okay, so let's go back to the freeway again. I'm told that I can't go right. Let's get told that I have to get up high, and the car in front of me, this has been put here to remember. It had no male or female to it. The voice. It was very matter of fact. Now, I don't know if you've seen, is it Spaceman on Netflix with Adam Sandler? It's kind of, what a fantastic, that is such a great film. That is pretty much how we can sum up as experiencers, right? It is so intelligent that makes us think about our lives, makes us think about our actions, makes us think about our encounters, how we can better ourselves, how we can solve problems, what we can do for the environment, what we can do. It is such a huge conscious shift. So I don't hear him in American accent. Maybe that's part of your subconscious, sort of like how you would be more comfortable about hearing them communicate with you. For me, it wasn't male, it wasn't female. It was just bang. It was very, very matter of fact.
And Spaceman, by the way, messed with my head. That messed with my head. I like
mine. I loved it. It was bang on point.
and in the end,
coffee, not your coffee, mine. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. In the end, when they hugged each other, and I'm like, dude, it's a spider alien, and I was all emotional. I was like, man, I'm wrecked. But yeah, really
and then
well.
She picked up the spider at the same point that he was thinking of her and she was thinking of him. It is all so interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty
heavy. So clever upstairs. Let me tell you how they give you the signs. They are absolutely, the intelligence of them is just, they're billion of years ahead of us, aren't they? So
I'm going to say one thing and then we're going to move on.
Yeah.
Adam Sandler is a much better actor than we think.
Oh, I know.
Just go and watch the movie. It's like, what?
Yeah, right.
There's no giggles and laughs in this movie. It's very
consciously, lots of people are changing. I mean, so I think I absolutely adore the fact that he's done something like this, because people are going to think, no, another movie. No. It is very intellectually stimulating, and it is very on point, and it is very courageous for him to do that, because in this time frame that we're in now with disclosure, it just makes people think, really? And it's just like, that is how a lot of experiencers live our lives.
Right. Yeah, it is kind of strange how, it's not, but it is for the rest of the world. It's kind of strange how these movies about contact, we've always had them. It's not like Close Encounters never happened. I get that. But it seems that a lot of productions today are dealing with this emotional side of contact.
Well, it
And
is. It's very important.
pretty wild.
Very
Yeah,
important.
it's
You know,
pretty
and
wild.
there are really no words. So when you see when it all goes silent, it's just amazing. It's yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a great film. Everybody's got to see that. Yeah.
So what happens next? Take us through it. Okay,
Where are
so we
Oh,
were
hypnosis beings circle around child presentation. So yeah, it was about the beings for me, and it was about putting the pieces of the past together for me. Now we'll go to Topanga Canyon. I went to then I went to Aptos. I went to pick up a trailer, took it back to Topanga Canyon. And Topanga Canyon at that time was a hot spot. I didn't realize. I was then there. So you must know Topanga quite well. There was a place called Inn of the Seventh Ray. I believe it's still there now, a little restaurant, very sort of like Nick Pope calls it Ying Tong, sort of like crystals and books and all of that. Yeah.
Yep.
I was near there, just well, actually, I was up at Robinson, up high, where I was staying, but I went to go to a friend's house with another friend, and they were playing music. One was strumming a guitar, the other was starting to sing. I'm looking through the bookshelves, and then I see a book called Teachers of the Pleiadians. Called Bringers of the Dawn, Teachers of the Pleiadians. And I look at that, and I'm like, how do I know this? How do I know this? How do I know this book? And I picked it up, and I was just sort of flicking through it. And then Seth at the time, well, they like I say, they were playing. I then all of a sudden had what I call is a TV in front of my head. Couldn't see the room whatsoever. Everything blacked out, like boom, TV in front of my head. And then I had a frequency that was put in front of me. Now, we talk about harmonics and we talk about frequency. It is so relevant to experiences, the impact that it has on you spiritually and emotionally, and how it can sort of step you up a little bit, well, quite a bit. And so I was then given this frequency. I could see it in front on this TV screen, and it was going from fat to thin, a bit like if you're sort of like in a sound studio, you know, you've got the board there in front of you and you're sort of like playing with the buttons and stuff like that. It was going from fat to thin, in the pitch. The tone that was coming out from it was absolutely intense. And it totally took me back to the freeway. Now, I didn't hear that tone on the freeway whatsoever. Didn't hear it at all. I had, I suppose, the frequency change within my body. And I then thought, oh my God, it's outside. Oh my God, it's outside. Now, it was at night time. It was evening time. And oh, well, it was, yeah, it would have been, yeah, it was dark outside. I remember that. And he lived on this peacock reservation place. So it was great. You know, you could hear them squawking around and stuff like that. Not at that time of night, but, and I had this book in my hand and I said, guys, can you hear that? And they both looked at each other as if to say, she's gone mad. And I said, can you not hear that? And Seth said so calmly, Bridget, you know what you can hear? Go outside. Now, I had told Seth about my encounter because obviously he's got like loads of quite new age books, lives pretty much opposite to the Inn of the Seventh Ray. Went to Topanga Homegrown, you know, very organic, all of that. And he says, you know what you can hear? You can go outside. It was like, Jimmy, a pulling. I was being like, you know, phone home, pulling to go outside. This object that was outside, definitely outside, it was pulling me, calling me to come outside. And I remember getting up like frightened. I was frightened at that point because when something appears in front of you, you're dealing with that sequence, right? As you're then, how more scary as it is to have something calling you and then you go and open the door, right? I just knew that I couldn't go outside. I could not physically go outside because it was the craft. It was, all I can say is it felt like the same craft. It was calling me again to go back out. And I just remember staying there. And I had a lot of strange things that happened to me in Topanga Canyon. I had to go for a medical procedure in Topanga Canyon that was very, very different. That obviously something had happened, and which I still have the medical records for, because there was a lot of activity. So you go back to Preston and his posters and your poster that you've got. I remember seeing his poster on the telegraph poles. Have you seen a UFO over Topanga Canyon? I'm like, oh my God, are you joking me? To see a picture of a UFO on anything at that point was like, oh my God, I took it down. And I remember keeping hold of it. And I took 2 down. And it wasn't until I got back to England and started making contact with people, which would have been in snail mail back to people, because we didn't really have the internet back then, writing a letter to Preston Dennett, finding his, had his telephone number, finding him. Back in those days, you'd find people's addresses back in the books that they wrote, right? Or they'd have reference points of where you can go to read that sort of like terms. So it's like I contacted Preston. So
okay.
Can I just big up his YouTube channel? It is phenomenal for everybody to go to. It has everything on it.
So back to Budd. Let's go back to the session. Okay, so how long do you think you were on the craft? I understand time is relative or not relative, right? But how long was how long was your time on the craft?
Okay, I can't say craft because I was in a field. I was placed in a field with them, and I believe that they placed me there because it was my place to make me familiar. Now, as we know, screen memory as well. That's what they wanted me to appear that it looked like. It was somewhere familiar where they used to take me as a child. We all seen Taken. We all have the screen memories of the people doing the roadworks and stuff like that. Screen memories are brilliant in many ways. They aid trauma. They desensitized me to that. So I can't say craft, because when I was under the hypnosis, it was about being in a field, the place, and then Budd then took me back to when I was a child and then doing the medical procedures on me and things.
So if I'm to understand you correctly, that adventure, right, in the field, was that it? And then it just ended? They wanted to expose you and show that to you?
Yeah, that was it. That is all that happened to me, of like the child presentation. I didn't have any, like I say, the medical procedures happened when I was a lot younger. And people say, why you? Why you? It's because they've kept an eye on me since a child. So I'm not the special one. They've kept on many millions of us since we were children. I was a test baby for the rhesus negative injection. Now, if you are rhesus negative and you are an abductee, all of the cases like John Mack, Budd Hopkins, they've all Yvonne Smith, they've all looked into it, or part of the thing. What blood group are you? So I was the test baby for the anti-D injection. So as Nick Pope in mine and Nick Pope's presentation, that we've done quite a few presentations together because he's always supported my case. I was what he classes patient zero. So there is probably the reason from birth that they have always been in contact with me. So I'm no special. Everyone else has got something else that they're following. It's just they probably think, oh, well, she's much easier. We know all of her history. We've done these tests on her. We've ticked that test on her. So I just think it's something as simple as that. And yet they must have known that I was never going to put this down, and I was always going to talk about it and help this disclosure.
Did the contact after 1993? Did it continue? And if it did, how did it happen?
It's never stopped, Jimmy. I can't say it happens monthly. I can't say it happens yearly. It just happens when it happens, and when it happens, and it is very close. I've had UFO experiences with my son called Orion, and where we've seen remarkable things. I always get them very, very, very close to the point of, and also I'll get them very, I can say, hey, wait there, just wait. I need a witness. Wait, I'd call him down, or let's say Isetti Ranch. Saw some amazing things at Isetti Ranch, and I knew where they were when they came out of the hill, the mount. beautiful green, emerald green lights, orbs, huge they would have been because they're way off in the distance. I knew which star that they were going to go to, and there were other witnesses there, and I said, see that one, it's going to go over to there. So it would go over there and then blink out into the portal there. You know, very similar to Skinwalker's Ranch living with me in certain ways, you know, but it goes through its ebbs and waves. Generally, if there is high tension, if there is an emotional content in my life, boom, that's when it happens. And that isn't unusual for many experiences. But what I think it does at that point, let's say you've had an argument with your partner, blah, and you go outside and you have a cigarette, or you go outside and just think, oh my God, universe. And then you have an encounter, right? What it does, it sort of like resets the button of like, right, now we're going to guide you. Now we're going to give you something. Now you're going to have to go down this in a different way. And we're going to go back to Spaceman again. It is like that. It's just so what it's like. I need to speak to that director.
Yeah, and why do you think... why do you think all of this is happening now? Right, where we've been fighting for this for a long time, and Brigitte, I'm pretty vocal about this. Mm-hmm. We've wanted disclosure, we wanted the acknowledgement, we wanted the public to talk about this, we wanted our government, and now that they are, I kind of miss the old days when we were fighting for it. Right, when it would, because that was our own little thing, and we were put because I think that they're dealing with it wrong, and I'm not cool with it. But yet, so many experiencers out there, they don't. For me, disclosures happened. I get that, but they don't want to hear that from me. They want the acknowledgement officially so they can turn to their husband, their wives, their kids, their coworkers and go, see, I told you I wasn't crazy. So I get that part of it, but it's all happening now. And the question is, why? Why do you think things are moving so fast?
Interesting. Why do I think? Well, if I look back to 27 years ago, I was just the oddball that wanted to speak out. Obviously, lots of people had gone forward, Travis Walton, many high-profile experiences, and there's just little me just wanting to tell the story. Why? Well, the fact that my encounter involved military helicopters, I couldn't have a better validation right now as a wake-up call that the military now are really hugely obviously looking into this with their pilots and the gimbal and various things. And actually the gimbal was released on my birthday, the 16th of December. I just thought, oh Christ, here we go. Absolutely crazy. But I think that really, I can't put a time on it. Why now? I don't know. But the time is of the essence, and the time is really important. I know that the military will have a report on my encounter. So 27 years ago, there wouldn't have been. So I'm only standing in my feet right now at my experience. I know the military have something on my encounter. All very well. Everyone's coming out in Congress. Absolutely. Thank you. Absolutely. But Steve, people still don't want to hear it. The other generation of people don't want to hear that. Yes, we have craft. We have beings. I knew fucking years ago that all of this existed. And that's why I've always fought. So is everybody else. But the importance is, I want that military. I want that disclosure for me from the military that you are intercepting that craft. What it's doing to us all now, it's just highlighting the fact that we have to be better. We have to be honest. We have to be real. We have to be true to ourselves. We have to be, have to have more empathy. You have to go about your life in a totally different way, because look what the hell we're doing to this world right now. It is a huge major conscious shift. I could get all new age about it, but I won't. That's for another show. But it is a frequency thing. It is definitely a changing of frequency, hugely.
Do you feel that, especially with the way things are being dealt with now, is this something that we are ready for as a planet? I mean, and I mean, it. Your answer is yes.
Well, I can only say that through my pair of eyes, through what I've witnessed and what I've seen and what I've been through. So I'm ready. Because let's go through lockdown, right? People have been watching various documentaries. You've got more and more people into this now. So we have a different population. We have people that are not experiencers that say, hang on a minute, all of this is evidence has been out for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Okay, the government are now saying this. I think the importance is we all have a part to play, whether it be just picked up on this, whether it just be, your son like, oh, I'm going to watch that documentary. He can then talk about with his friends. It has that ripple effect, and that ripple effect is getting very, very big.
Now, I wanted to ask you about David Grush, because he goes and says the things that he does live television. He's sworn in with testimony, but started dropping like real bombs. He flew a mission, right? He flew a mission and was dropping bombs. And we've got the pilots of these craft. We've got biologics. He called them reverse engineering. I have addresses. I have all of this, and I will give this to you. This was live on television. It seemed that Congress, although they were prepped somewhat for this, it seemed surprised and not surprised at the same time. What did you make of that? And was that too much for, we wanted that? I remember, Brigitte, I'm sorry. I'm like, here we go. All right. But ultimately, in the end, was it too much too soon?
It had to get out there at some point. I mean, they took a long time to do it prior to the gimbal or prior to any other footage that they have held. I think it's go back to the lockdown. People are, and more podcasts are coming up. People are asking more and more questions. You've got to remember, Steve Greer was doing this Congress absolutely years and years ago, back in the early 2000s. Steve Bassett has been an absolutely massive campaigner. And a very good friend of mine. I remember years ago. I don't know. Let's say 15 years ago, he came over to stay with me in England because obviously I do a lot of research as well. And I have a friend that was very high up in the military as a bodyguard in some country, I can't remember, and we all went to dinner. He couldn't get his head around, what Steve Bassett's like, and it's really out there. This bodyguard couldn't even understand this. Now, we have now, like you say, all of the military and all of the pilots. Brilliant. Thank you for all that you do. Commend it. I just want more information out more quicker, because let's just flood what's going on. You have the people that want to take it in and the people that are ready to take it in. And those people that are ready to take it in, hopefully the people that aren't, they may come to us and go, okay, all right, what, thank you. I want us all, I want more experiences to just say, look, this is, not just the documentaries. And you've got obviously the military, the Navy witnesses that have been in front of Congress, years before the last couple of years with David Grush, that have been highly commended for what they've done. Put those back in the field, because you'd have to go through old archives to see those. And some of the things that I've witnessed are absolutely amazing.
What was the difference between Dolores and Budd, and what was revealed?
The difference between Dolores and Budd. Well, Budd obviously was more the freeway and some of the early ones. With Dolores, it would have been 2 years. I came back in 93. Dolores was 97. I had the hypnosis with. I was being heavily blocked. When I came back to England, I was being treated for very severe headaches and hair loss. I told, honestly, my doctor that I had been under a UFO. Can you imagine back in 93 saying that I had this craft above me, you know, and I'd had other experiences as a child. So he treated me for radiation. So with the hypnosis with Dolores, I would have beings right next to me with their green. I always say this, a really dark green, stagnant coloured eyes right over my body, you know, like literally feet away from me. And then they would peel back their eyes. Now, I didn't know at that point, you know, I wasn't aware. I then saw cat's eyes. I always call them slits for eyes. They had cat's eyes, the being. So I was getting lots of blocks with Dolores. And with Dolores, she said, because I did 2 days with her here in England, she came over to England to see me and to work with other people as well. But I was getting blocks because it wasn't now time for me to remember. I still have all of the audios of Budds. I still have all of the audios for Dolores. I am going to go through those. It's just one of those things you just file in your filing cabinet and just wait for the time's right. Time is getting there. Yeah, but I mean, I've consciously, without hypnosis, had beings next to me. When I lived in Exeter, when I was running this witness support group, I had 3 beings. I remember going to bed with a headache, lying down on the bed, and then boom, I have right next to me 3 beings. They were the typical types of greys. I remember looking at them and then turning your head very slowly back and go, oh my God. And then from underneath the bed, I had what I can say is like a needle, and it went in the very lower part of my spine. And then by like a dartboard. Do you have dartboards in America? I can't remember.
Not in my home, and certainly not in my bed either. Okay,
no,
so
but it was then the ejection then went like a dartboard. It would then, the anesthetic would then beam out on my lower back, and then boom, I was out. And I've had, like I say, an experience with beings, but the horse beings, a couple of years ago.
Wait. What now? Okay, so you were a needle came through the bed into your back, and then
underneath the bed. So I'm lying on the bed, and all I felt is this very sharp pinprick in the lower part of my spine going in. And I just remember with these beings next to me, oh shit. And then inch by inch by inch, my lower back was being anesthetized until the point of boom, I was put out.
Wow. You know, I'm really going to have a rough time sleeping tonight. and I've got this fear. I talk about it a lot, right? I live alone.
Behind closed doors.
Yeah. And I just know, I don't know when, but it's going to happen, right? I'm going to walk in. I don't go into a dark room. I don't. I turn on the lights. I turn on the lights in the hallway before I get there, right? Click, 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 click. I do not want to walk in and flick on a light in a dark room and something is no.
My place is really dark. Bookshelves everywhere. I love mood lighting. I could walk around the house in pitch black. I know where everything is. It doesn't scare me. Oh, you can't come over here then?
No, not my house. No.
I have no fear. I absolutely, with what everything has gone on in my life, everyone says, B, you are such a strong person.
No, my house. No. You walk around it's lit up.
Your bill must be astonishing.
I've got automatic lights. I've got sensors.
Clappers.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, right. So yeah, I cannot do that. When I had my original, my first like conscious thing that happened. This was 1995. You were in 93, 1995 in Sherman Oaks. And I'm living alone. And it was so shocking to me. And it was early in the morning, between 2 and 3 o'clock. I've told the story so many times. Anyway, when that happened and my eyes popped up, I heard something. I heard something moving, and I thought I was being burgled. I thought somebody had broken in, and I freaked out. Anyway, after that experience, when my eyes popped open and I'm looking eyeball to eyeball with this thing, after that, my lights were on forever. I was never in the dark after that. I slept with the TV on. Man, I just no. And I've been that way ever since. I just can't do it.
What do you mean thing? What in what way?
I keep the experience to myself because I don't want to contaminate what other people's experiences are. Yeah. But I'll say this. I'll say this much. And thank goodness we didn't visit this under hypnosis. I would have lost my mind. Off to my right, TV's at the foot of my bed, right? Okay, so I'm like, and off to my right is a sliding glass door and a balcony in my in my bedroom, and the blinds were open, right, like this, and so the moonlight was coming in. And standing there right there, lit up, is this being, and just standing there like this. I was like, "What?" And it was
95, yeah, right.
Yeah, 1995. Oh. Now, so when I spring to action, I'm ready to go full Bruce Lee, right? I had a whole plan, right? Karate chop him to the neck, take him out, and so I had this thing, and so I jump out of bed, I turn on the light, jump out of bed, and I turn around, and he's gone. And I thought that he ran past me and out of my bedroom in that split second. So I'm going through the house, one room at a time, turning on the lights. Nothing's there. And I look, and everything's locked. Right? All the windows are locked. The doors are locked. I come back into my bedroom, and I go up to the sliding glass door, and I check. It's locked. And I remember looking up into the sky. Now, I wasn't thinking alien at first. I thought somebody had broken. But when I went back out over to the window, I looked up. I did. I looked out. I looked up. I was like, man, is there going to be a flying saucer there? Now, this thought popped in my head. That was very strange. I didn't sleep that night. I was very, very freaked out. I had every light on in the house, the bathrooms, everything was lit up, and I just rode it out till the sun came up in the morning. Yeah,
it can happen in broad daylight, and it can happen during the day. It can happen even with the lights fully on. You know, it's a human response. It's a human response, and I get that. Yeah, but my God, some of the best sightings have been in broad daylight. You know, for me.
Brigitte, I remember thinking to myself, just like you in Brentwood, we're talking about Sherman Oaks, heavy populated areas, 1 million people there. Yep. And how could this happen?
Well, I sent you
everybody.
I sent you some pictures, images of some great pictures of craft over Santa Monica, Pacific Palisades, and Topanga Canyon. Absolutely, Topanga Canyon when one was in '93. That is in Santa Monica. That is at the bottom of Santa Monica. I'm not sure what year that was. That is courtesy of like Wenzel Stevens. He used to do some amazing books, which I have, and the calendars. And then so we're not far vicinity from where you were living and I was living. That's just over the other sort of kind of end of the hills. That one was also over Oh, actually, the first one, the Lucky, I think that's Pacific Palisades. This one was over Santa Monica. And if you zoom in, it's a very clear craft, the same as the one over the Lucky store. You know, there you go. That's the typical craft that I saw. And then the next one is the Topanga Canyon. So this is all within a few years, beautiful pictures of craft that have been taken. Yeah, that's a Topanga Canyon one. There you go. So that's pretty much the same type of ship that was seen over the Santa Monica that you just saw previously. Now, as you can see, that one in Topanga Canyon, that one's got a light source underneath it. Look at that.
This one I've always been fascinated with that particular shot. And
Topanga Canyon too. But that is shot in 1998 in Topanga Canyon.
Before we go, I want to flash this up to everybody. This is pretty cool. This is a report card. This is now this is Lincoln County, which is Area 51, and I've met the Lincoln County Sheriff. There's like 3 in the whole county, right? And but here you go, and this says down here at the bottom, it says trespass of military installation. Okay.
And then you've got another bit of paperwork for it. I think you've got the other piece that goes along with it.
So this was, I'm assuming this is Area 51.
Yeah, got arrested. Loving it. I don't care what we do for ufology, right? So it was a part of a road trip. There you go. So that's my, that is my arrest sheet that we all got given. Right, it wasn't when they all came out, let's all go and storm Area 51. The arrest was, what does it say on it again? What the arrest was 2012, right? So it's in May 2012. Because I have been in the public eye for my experiences and stuff and done a bit of TV work, the Channel 4 wanted to do, at BBC road trip, wanted to do a take me and other experiencers to do a Route 66. They took me back to Los Angeles, and that is where I took the pictures of the road that was very different. They took me back to what I call the scene of the crime, which, as you know, as a film crew, you're not there for very long. You're there for like 2 or 3 hours. And to be honest, I wanted to sit cross-legged and bloody meditate there and just see what else came up and what else thoughts came into my head. Go up to the Holiday Inn up at the top. I didn't get to do any of that. It was a very quick sort of like filming a part of it. I think I did send you some shots of it. But so they took us on a road trip. We got to meet so many amazing people. Throughout the road trip, head of MUFON, Steve Murillo, then obviously Preston Dennett, Annie Jacobson. She asked me something very interesting. She said, did I think that craft that I witnessed on the freeway was military? No one had ever asked me that. It's like,
yeah, that sounds like Annie.
Yeah. But I said no.
It does.
I said no way was it military. Not because of what it was doing to my body. Obviously, we know that military type of stuff have the mind control, and we have all of what's going on. But no, it wasn't. So yeah. So what had happened is we then go to John Lear's. That was interesting. So we go to
wait, Brigitte, you got off this. How did you get arrested?
Get arrested. Yeah. So after we'd gone to Lear's, we then went to Area 51. So we were there by the gates. I have sent you some pictures of the photographs that I took, but we've got that bit that goes up, and then you've got the buildings, the little sort of, I want to sort of like garden sheds that the military are in there, and then you've got that long drive, and then you've got cars, trucks, blah blah. So we go with this Irish comedian called Andrew Maxwell, typical Irish stupid comedian, thinks that he can, humor can come into it in any situation. No chance. So I do this stupid thing. I like put my leg underneath that bit that comes up, and it's like, right, okay, my leg's not been lasered off. We're safe. So I think, okay, right, maybe. So Andrew goes, let's dance into Area 51. So there's about 10 of us there, the film crew and other people, and you've got the bus driver that stays in the bus. So all of a sudden, I put my leg under. Oh, this is quite safe. So we all then sort of like duck under, a few sort of like walk round. And now, because you've got a picture of us sort of like taken with in the background, we are all there. We are now under the line, quite near to the building that would have the officers in it, the police officers, military in it. So we're now walking, and that you've got chevrons there, and we're sort of like dancing, skipping, going, yeah, we're under. We can then see car coming, and we just don't think of anything. We're just like, we're underneath here. This is so cool. And Barney, the cameraman, goes, well, let's go to the hut. I went, yeah. And not that I'm the person to dare or anything, but I'm like, I don't give a shit at this point. I'm like, let's do this, right? I'm like the worst person at the party to take. And I go, let's do this. So me and Barney go up. He's got the camera on his shoulder, this big bloody big camera, and we walk up, and there's little steps going up, and I remember blinds, and I remember looking in, not going up to it closely, but I remember I can see through these blinds 2 military guys, typical, not putting all of the Americans under this sort of like line, eating and watching baseball or football, and they were just eating away, backs to us, and I'm like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. Do they not know that we're here and what we've just done? So Barney knocks on the door. Well, then let me just tell you, it all absolutely kicks off. It kicks off. Then within seconds, door flings open, guns, 2 guys pile out. Me and Barney like just back, and then all of the rest of us are here. But one of the girls runs back to the bus, and the bus driver is still on the bus, right? So get on the floor now. And then we have literally, Jimmy, we have guns on our heads, like literally at the back of our necks. We had to be meters apart from each other, more than a handspan apart, military style sort of arrest, all in a line, face one side, phones all on the floor. And I just thought, shit, there is no way I am not going to remember my son's telephone number. You know, I had a nanny looking after my kids for me while I was away, and I just thought, oh my God, this is just going to go really wrong. And some of the girls were crying. You're in shock. It's I don't know what time it is at that point. It's sort of latter part of the day. It's still light. And then all of a sudden, from 2, Jimmy, let me tell you, as we all know, then they come from underneath. They come from underneath that shed that they were in. Absolutely loads of them. There must have been about, I don't know, God knows how many of them, all must have come up. I didn't see them come up from there, but I heard no cars at that point. They all piled out from there because subconsciously it was behind me. And then all of us have all got guns to our heads. Then cars came. We had a military helicopter. We heard it went as high as the White House. They had to call the White House to see that what they can do. I remember Andrew trying to sort of like say, hey, we're here from the BBC. We had Max was the producer. He was there, you know, had to give details of who he's filming with. They took the camera equipment. They took all of our phones. I remember just wanting to go to the toilet. They took me to the toilet. Now, I used to do security, so I know that, you know, usually it should be a female that should go with you into the toilet. Nah, bloke. Not that he actually came into that, but he totally checked me all the way down. I had nothing, obviously no wires, nothing like that, anything like that. Anyway. So within, I don't know, we were there for about 4 or 5 hours on the floor. Bit by bit, we could sit up and then position ourselves towards the Nevada state of Nevada, that bit that we came up to. And then we got asked for ID. So we had to all go and find ID one by one. The military didn't go out of that boundary. The police officer stood at that boundary line. I then went out to the bus, and I knew that I had a camera in the car. in the bus in my bag. So I went there. I went to go and get my passport, and I went to go and get my driver's license. I then grabbed the camera, walked down the aisle of the bus, lowered the camera, took 2 pictures, and said to the bus driver, "Here, take this." Right. So I have 2 of those pictures, which I did send you. They're not great. They're not great pictures, but you can see the time frame on it. That is original, and that is I took them. You can see it on my website and stuff. So, but it was just a confirmation, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, to the point, Jimmy, you think, God, it's going to be a massive fine. Actually, more thinking, oh my God, I'm going to go to jail in America. This is just, so that's one of the pictures that I took. So that, like I said, we're now back in front, and then there's another picture. And
I've got it. I've got it.
So that is one of the girls took that picture. So now we are under the line, and you can see where, the door that we go and knock on. But, for it to go as high as Washington, that's quite scary. So they then, after a while, after five hours, we then were allowed back on the bus. Oh my God, the relief. Oh my God, we were shaking. Oh my God, this is just absolutely so real. And then we stayed in a very small place, not by the old Rachel Inn, but a very small little place. We had cars that would then, we only stayed there for one night. We had cars then that would circle where we were. We then went to, I don't know what it's called. You'd know, Jimmy. I think it's at the old Rachel Inn. You've got that sort of, what's the big metal sort of like, looks like chicken shed that has like the museum. What's that called?
That's Alamo.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we were there trying to get like knickknacks and, memorabilia and stuff like that. And we were outside, and we would have cars that came up to us. Well, actually, sorry, not trucks and not cars. One truck, one car that came out, got out of the car, come literally up to our faces, took a picture, and got back into the car.
Well, yeah, that's a
intimidation. Yeah.
That's a very, very, very remote area. You don't see anybody out there.
Oh, we were followed for days.
Yeah. So if you see somebody else out there, they're out there because of you.
Oh yeah, totally.
Brigitte, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Now, where can everybody reach out to you? Is it as simple as BrigitteBarclay.com?
Well, you can find me on Facebook. I'd love to have some people on Facebook. So that's really cool. So find me on Facebook, and then you'll see the history of, the people that I've worked with, old pictures from, like the Nick Redferns, the, Budd Hopkins pictures and various things, to know that I've been in it for a long time and I've never given up. Or you can go to my website, which I'm sure, Jimmy, you've got all of the links to. Yeah, come find me on Facebook, and happy to always, love to hear people reach out and hear other people's encounters.
Thank you so much, Brigitte. It was so great to finally have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you,
It's an
Jimmy.
incredible case, and just
in
thank
your
you so much.
hometown, and that's what is amazing. Thank you, everyone in LA. Just when you're next going down that freeway, then you see the Holiday Inn. Just think, you know what? It can happen. It did happen. It involved military helicopters and a Men in Black car, and I'm not giving up.
Such a great story. Brigitte, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Oh, no. I'm going back to bed. It's 2 minutes past 5. I'm going back to bed. Bacon sandwich, back to bed. See you later. Best of luck. All right. Thank you so much, Jimmy. Until next time. Bye.
Perfect show. Thank you so much, Brigitte. Just absolutely incredible. And she's right here in my hometown. I was just a couple of miles away when all of that went down. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. That's right. Today is my Friday. I want everybody to enjoy their weekend. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Thank you to Bill. Thank you, John Aside. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and this broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be downloaded, copied, rebroadcast, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Everybody have a great weekend. Be safe. I'll see you right here on Monday. Go Backley Tappy.